Today I want to talk about the linebacker position and the uphill battle that we have not acknowledged that these men are fighting, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today I want to talk about inside linebacker in Alex Grinch's defense. Now, I think we've spoken quite a bit and will continue to talk quite a bit about the depth at linebacker and how Alex Grinch is planning to deploy the talent already on the roster. We know how he's going to recruit at defensive back. We think we know how he's going to recruit at other positions, but we really are waiting on some offers to go out there and what they bring in to have a really good understanding of just what they're looking at inside linebacker, outside linebacker, those sorts of positions. And we see offers from like Antoine Powell in 2020 class at edge and those sorts of things, right? But I'm looking at the roster that is going to play this season. And you see guys, Kenneth Murray Jr., you see DaShaun White, you see Bryan Mead, you see Levi Draper, Jonathan Perkins brought in. You also know you got Brian Asamoah back there, right? So for all intents and purposes, those are the guys for which you're looking at the middle of the linebacking core, right? Inside linebacker, Mike linebacker, Will linebacker. And I'm thinking about Kenneth Murray Jr. and how much people really don't necessarily think this dude is any good. And a lot of it goes back to how he played as a true freshman, particularly in the Rose Bowl. This play where he looked to be out of position was actually on oboe, but we are a narrative-driven audience and we want to be right. Thing is, Kenneth Murray Jr. kind of changed that up last year with his 155 tackles. And some of you will say he had like 70 in the Army game. Yeah, well, that was 70 somebody else didn't have, number one. Number two, you're going to fault the guy for making tackles. Okay, you go be that person. But the rest of us are going to take a look at him and we're going to say, what does he do well? He chases down tackles, he sets the edge, and he goes sideline to sideline. What are the things that DaShaun White does well? He sets the edge, he chases down tackles, and he runs really fast sideline to sideline. You could say the same thing about Caleb Kelly, who I understand he's not going to play most of the year, if at all, in 2019. But another guy who could set the edge, was a great blitzer, and could chase down tackles from the backside. And then you look at how these guys are recruited, and for the most part, we're talking about outside linebackers who were asked to play inside. Because you had such a bad recruiting job by a former defense coordinator named Mike Stoops, you asked Kenneth Murray Jr., who's an outside linebacker and had played some safety in high school, to come inside and play middle linebacker and call the defense. And then you did it again, right? With DaShaun White, an outside linebacker. You said, hey, you're going to come and you're going to play Mike or Will. So you're taking guys that are used to playing out on the outside of the box, that are used to setting an edge and basically playing between the hash and the numbers, and you're saying, no, you're going to be in between the tackles, and you're going to be over the top of the interior of the line, and you're going to be responsible for making calls you've never made before. And you did the same thing with a guy like Caleb Kelly, and you really have two inside linebackers who 247 would classify as Mikes and Wills, and those guys are Levi Draper and Bryan Mead. And while I understand there's a lot of folks that don't necessarily believe that Kenneth Murray Jr. should be the starting Mike linebacker or even Will linebacker, and they want to see him move to rush end or what have you, there is this school of thought that I need to acknowledge. And that is, if all bets are off at all positions, like Alex Grinch has said, and if you are evaluating the talent and saying, where can we put the guys best to take advantage of their skill sets and their abilities and what they did well and do well, you would look at Levi Draper and Bryan Mead in a little different light. Levi Draper is an All-American talent. We know this. Coming out of Collinsville locally, we also know that the dude grew up an OU fan. He was really instrumental in putting together the 2017 class that is studded, and he had opportunities to play elsewhere. He chose to come to Oklahoma. Bryan Mead, a little bit of a different story. A Rejoice Christian out of Owasso, Oklahoma, walked on and has seemed to not just win the favor of Grinch and Brian Odom, but also got onto the field last year in a meaningful capacity before guys like Caleb Kelly, particularly in the Iowa State game, you'll remember. And by all accounts, guys are working their butts off. And I'm going, all right, who actually fits what you're trying to do and is doing it in high school? And it's Bryan Mead and Levi Draper. Those are your two inside linebackers to date, right? Everybody else is converted for the most part. Brian Asamoah went both ways, right? Running back and linebacker. He still needs to develop a little bit more size. Even Jonathan Perkins, to a degree, he's going to need a little room to grow, but I think that guy could be inside a linebacker. Point that I'm making here is Levi Draper and Bryan Mead knew what it was when they got here, and I think that instinctually and the way that they're made up, they're actually two of your more capable options at inside linebacker. Issue here is DaShaun White and Kenneth Murray Jr. are very talented, and DaShaun White was playing will linebacker, he was playing Mike linebacker next to the will linebacker Caleb Kelly with the second unit when they got to play last year. So he's well and truly inside, and same thing with Kenneth Murray, I think, when you're going to settle it. But if you're looking at depth and you're trying to figure out who's going to do what, I would encourage you to take a look at Levi Draper and Bryan Mead throughout the summer, and when preseason camp, see if those dudes are actually competing in the way that, say, Curtis Bolton was competing last year and flat out just beat Caleb Kelly for a job that we all thought Caleb Kelly had in the bag. And I really want to see how much of Grinch is talent-oriented, work ethic-oriented, or just fit-oriented. Because I think, you can have all three, but it's rare. You can have a guy that's really talented that you're asking to play out of position. Buki. You can have a guy that works his tail off, that just finds a way to get on the field and make plays. Kenneth Mann. And you can have a guy that just absolutely fits what you're trying to do. And right now, that's the real just hard thing to say about the defense, is who out there playing any position do you think absolutely fits? You might say Neville Gallimore, but again, I need to see how he's deployed. I think the guy is a true blue, modern one technique that can actually split between centers and guards, and if you want, guards and tackles. But I really am trying to look and say, who's playing the position that they're supposed to be playing? Parnell Motley? Yeah, I can say that. But Justin Burrell has been moved from corner to safety, right? Jordan Parker's been moved from corner to safety. Maybe Robert Barnes, but we haven't seen hide nor hair of him, and he was held out. Trey Brown? Perhaps. But does he fit the mold that they want? He's extremely fast, but I'm not even sure that they would have recruited Trey Brown out of high school. And that's not to say anything about Trey Brown. It's just to say the way that this staff has gone about doling out offers has just been a little bit different. So I wanted you to just think about that. I wanted to give that as food for thought. Bryan Mead, Levi Draper are inside linebackers. Kenneth Murray Jr., DaShaun White are converted to inside linebackers. And you're still going to figure out what Brian Asamoah and Jonathan Perkins are going to do. But we're going to find out a lot about how Grinch wants his defense to run based on who the guys are starting, who are the guys that are starting against Houston on September 1st at 6:30 p.m. when we open the season. All right, that is it for me. Deuces.